some in the House, of course, and some in Congress support President Obama wholeheartedly. Emanuel Cleaver is one of them. He's he's in fact the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, and he's mad at some other liberals and African Americans who say the president hasn't done enough. And he makes 2 points here, which I found to be telling. He said, quote, many African Americans and frankly liberal whites elected the president with inflated expectations. Everything that they wanted and believed in and dreamt about, they put into Barack Obama. He could not have possibly satisfied that. So argument number one is, well, of course he wasn't going to do much, and it was your fault for expecting change, even though he ran a campaign on change, right? That we're too greedy, Richard, that we should settle for renewing the Bush tax cuts. We should settle for continuing Bush's warrantless wiretapping program. We should settle for escalating the war in Afghanistan. We should settle for Mitt Romney's health care proposal passes a Democratic plan. Okay, so it's our fault.
Here's the problem with that argument. First of all, this argument is so 2010. Okay, but the problem is this. That argument says, you know, you crazy liberals, you thought that he was going to try to do 10 things and do 8 of them, and he's tried to do 10 things and only do 2 of them. No, he hasn't. He's tried to do the opposite of the 10 things we wanted. That's where the dissatisfaction isn't that the man has nobly tried and failed. The dissatisfaction is that he ran couple specifics on not taxing high-cost health plans. He made fun of that, and rightly so. And then one of his few interventions in the health debate was to ensure that that was in the plan. He ran on a public option and then made a private deal to cut it. He over and over, you know, a while back when he was ranting at the liberals during the tax deal, he said, pick one thing I promised to do that I haven't tried my best to do. And I said, oh, please, Mr. President, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. That's like Gary Hart saying to the photographers, follow me around, you know, and see what you find. Because I can name 8 things that he promised to do and then did the opposite of. So this argument is the least persuasive of all of them.
And, you know, they tell us, oh, well, look, you guys expect too much. But it's actually not true. For example, Bernie Sanders fights a good fight on every single issue. Right. And just because he doesn't win every one of those fights, are we saying, oh, Bernie Sanders didn't do enough? No, absolutely not. We know the guy's trying his best. Now, the second argument they'll make is, oh, but you see, Bernie Sanders doesn't get anything done. First of all, he's not the president. He's one senator, right? But second of all, that's not true at all. Since he fought really hard on all those issues, he actually won a really important fight in getting the Fed audited, which was really important, and by the way, bipartisan.
Bernie's a great example, because I had this argument with Bob Cesca, I think on the show during the health debate, because he said, oh, you know, you say this bill isn't liberal enough, but Bernie Sanders is voting for it, so what does that tell you? And I said, you know what? Bernie Sanders is voting for it because he held out until he got $12 billion for community health centers, and now he's supporting it. What did you get? And that's the lesson for all liberals. It's okay to fall in line and do a compromise once you get the maximum you can get.
Exactly. And Feingold fought all the good fights. He didn't win all of them, but he was doing the right thing. And by the way, he won critical ones, like McCain-Feingold, on the core issue of campaign finance reform. Did it do the job? Look, we wish that it was broader. Feingold wishes that it was broader. But at least it was on point, and again, a bipartisan win. Real bipartisanship, not the fake kind where they all agree to give the corporations more money. Now, the second part of Cleaver's defense of Obama, I think, is in some ways even worse. Now, a lot of African-American critics of the president are saying, look, we got 16.2% unemployment in the African-American community. Right. This recession has hit African-Americans so much harder. We did a story earlier in the week about how they've lost such a greater percentage of their net household worth for African-American families. Can we get a little help here? Cleaver says, quote, I think that the president and the White House have been very cautious in their work so as not to give anybody a reason to believe that they are somehow leaning towards African Americans. Whoa, I think that is devastating. What he's saying is, look, of course we're not going to help African Americans, because then Fox News would accuse Obama of helping African Americans too much, so we're not going to do anything for you. Well, then what did we elect you for?
Hey, of course. I mean, you know, I can pick a lot of white guys who won't do anything for African Americans too. You know, I mean, if you want a guy who won't.
And to me, this is like
mind-bending.
Yeah, and to me, this is like saying, hey, look, I'm black, so I can't help black people because they'll criticize me for it. Well, then, how did it help to have a black president?
Right. Well, it makes no sense either. I mean, it makes no sense because if you look at the poll numbers, most people in this country, like 80%, want to do more to improve race relations and to eliminate poverty among all racial groups and on and on. You know, sure, certainly an African American could do all those things.
What's with all these shirts? What do you got, like 28 different colors?
No, I have 3.
Did Young Turks finance these t-shirts, or did you finance them?
Young Turks financed it? They were cheap. I got 3 made for like $100.
Wait a minute, that ain't cheap at all.
We've already beat 2IT shows.
Oh, please.
And 2IT Sports.
Oh, please. She's grabbing all the right people.
Everyone like loses in their pants for JR.
That's your big scoop. Enjoy.
We do TYTU live on theyoungturks.com, 5 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday.
That's ridiculous. Give me that shirt back.